On an October morning in Scarborough, a man called 911, claiming his pregnant wife was in the bathtub and not breathing. He said he found her like that after going for a jog. While he sounded upset, something felt off. Why hadn't he pulled her out of the water? Why was he so calm during the call? And why did his story keep changing? Initially, it seemed like a tragic accident, but as days passed, more questions arose, revealing that this situation was far from what it appeared. This is the story of a vibrant woman, a husband with dark secrets, and a truth that took years to surface. Philip Grandin was born in the late 1980s and raised in Ontario, Canada. From an early age, those close to him described him as charismatic, confident, and remarkably bright. He excelled academically, earning a scholarship for his achievements. In 2003, at just 17, Philip made local headlines as the first male contestant in the Miss Paris Fair competition, later renamed Ambassador of the Paris Fair, where he was named runner-up. The event encouraged youth leadership and community involvement, qualities Philip seemed to embody fully. The following year, he graduated as the top student in his school district. With a passion for faith, he pursued theological studies and became a pastor at Inner Day Road Evangelical Baptist Church by 2007. That's where he met Anna. Born on November 10, 1981 in the Philippines, Anna was the daughter of Maria and Roman Darbyn and sister to Hannah. Her family immigrated to Toronto in 1994 in search of better opportunities. Known for her discipline and kindness, Anna worked part-time jobs while studying at the University of Toronto. In 2006, she graduated with honors in human biology and archaeology, beginning her career in risk assessment for a firm in downtown Toronto. Anna's friends and family described her as a radiant soul, gentle, spiritual, and full of life. Despite living with a chronic liver condition, she maintained a positive outlook, never allowing her health to overshadow her joy. Her deep faith kept her grounded, and she was active in several Baptist congregations. In 2008, her personal life began to flourish after crossing paths with Philip. Both shared a strong devotion to their faith, and soon after meeting, they began a relationship built on spiritual connection and mutual admiration. Their bond grew quickly, leading to a traditional Christian marriage. They settled into a modest bungalow in Scarborough, Ontario, and 3 years later, the couple received joyful news. Anna was pregnant. She was thrilled, lovingly referring to the baby as Jelly Bean, excited to embrace motherhood. However, their happiness was short-lived. In August 2011, Anna made a devastating discovery. Philip was having an affair. Worse still, the other woman was a friend of Anna's and a member of the very church where Philip preached. The betrayal cut deep. To add insult to injury, Anna also found out that her husband was regularly consuming adult content, a direct violation of the values he preached every Sunday. Despite the emotional turmoil, Anna remained calm and composed. Her love for Philip didn't falter. She expressed a willingness to forgive both him and the woman who had betrayed her trust. But forgiveness wasn't the end of the story. Anna wanted to save her marriage and help Philip find his way back to the principles he once lived by. She turned to someone they both trusted, Stephen, a longtime friend and fellow pastor. When Anna confided in him about the affair, Stephen offered to mediate weekly counseling sessions. Philip agreed, appearing remorseful and ready to make amends. However, as therapy progressed, deeper concerns emerged. Stephen suggested that Philip step down from his pastoral role, arguing that someone in moral conflict couldn't effectively guide others, especially while his former mistress was still in the congregation. Initially resistant, Philip eventually conceded and resigned from his position. During one of the sessions, it became clear that Philip's issues extended beyond the affair. His compulsive consumption of explicit material posed a serious problem. Stephen recommended installing filters on Philip's computer to block such sites and emphasized the importance of focusing on healing his marriage. Philip seemed to comply, finding new work as a nurse and manager at a retirement home. From the outside, it appeared he was on the path to redemption, but what happened next would shatter that illusion and take everyone by surprise. Despite attending therapy and stepping down from his pastoral role, Philip had not ended his affair. He had simply become better at hiding it. He and his lover, a trusted friend of Anna's, continued their secret encounters, often meeting in secluded spots and using his car as a rendezvous point. Anna wasn't naive. She sensed the lies. In early October 2011, during a couples therapy session, she confronted Philip once again about the affair. Just days later, on October 14th, the pregnant 29-year-old checked into a hospital, complaining of dizziness and overwhelming fatigue. While in the emergency room, she called her sister, Hannah, explaining that her symptoms began shortly after drinking a smoothie her husband had prepared. She even asked Philip if he had put something in the drink, but he denied it. Her instincts, however, were not wrong. Toxicology tests later revealed traces of lorazepam, a sedative that should never be given to pregnant women due to the risks it poses to both mother and unborn child. Anna remained under medical observation overnight and was released once her condition improved. No one could have known that this visit to the hospital would be her last. Just 3 days later, on October 17th, emergency services received a panicked call from Philip. He claimed to have returned from a jog to find his pregnant wife unconscious and submerged in the bathtub. During the call, the dispatcher provided step-by-step instructions. Drain the water, lift her out, and start CPR. But Philip, a trained nurse, claimed he didn't know how to perform CPR. He said he couldn't remove her from the tub because she was too slippery. The 911 operator urged him to use towels to drain the bathwater and to act quickly. Yet throughout the call, the sound of splashing water never stopped. He had done nothing. When first responders arrived at the house, they found Anna still submerged. She was rushed to the hospital, but neither she nor her unborn child could be saved. The autopsy confirmed the cause of death: drowning. Philip was brought in for questioning, and after over 2 hours with investigators, he was released. The next day, he met with Pastor Stephen to discuss funeral arrangements. When Stephen suggested buying a double burial plot so he could rest beside his wife and unborn child, Philip coldly declined, stating he might remarry one day and didn't think sharing a grave with Anna was appropriate. The comment was jarring and wildly out of place for a man who had just lost his wife and child. 2 weeks later, Anna's funeral was held at Jarvis Baptist Church, the very congregation she had served with devotion. Her family, friends, and the community gathered to honor her memory. But one guest stirred outrage: Philip's lover. She attended the ceremony despite being a central figure in the betrayal that shattered Anna's world. Philip stood silently by her side, adding insult to injury. He published an obituary in the Toronto Star, claiming Anna had been his beloved wife and best friend, and that they had eagerly awaited their baby's arrival. He ended the tribute by stating that the child had joined her in heaven. For many, this display of grief felt like nothing more than a performance. Those close to Anna saw through the mask. In the months that followed, Philip continued seeing his mistress in secret. It wasn't until early 2012 that the affair appeared to end. Meanwhile, the community's suspicion deepened and rumors swirled about Philip's conduct. Anger grew over the authorities' apparent lack of action. A pregnant woman, drugged and dead in her own bathtub, was gone, and yet her husband walked free. Behind closed doors, homicide detectives in Ontario had been gathering evidence, slowly building a case that pointed to deliberate, premeditated murder. Their conclusion was clear: Philip had drugged Anna with the intent to end her life. In May 2012, he was formally arrested and charged with first-degree murder. According to a spokesperson from the Homicide Division, no single piece of evidence sealed the case. It was the weight of many small, damning details. Yet despite the serious charges, a judge ruled that Philip would await trial under house arrest at his parents' secluded farm in Brant County. Their identities were kept from the public, but the news of his arrest sent shockwaves through the community. Neighbors who had known the Grandines expressed disbelief. One woman, Linda, recalled summers spent with the couple, sipping lemonade on her porch and celebrating birthdays together. She said Philip always seemed happy, albeit nervous about becoming a father. Nothing in her eyes hinted at darkness. But investigators were confident Philip had done more than break his vows. He had orchestrated the death of his pregnant wife. The road to justice was long and painstaking. It wasn't until 2014, 2 years after his arrest, that the murder trial began. Prosecutors alleged that Philip, a former pastor and practicing nurse, had sedated Anna with lorazepam, waited until she was completely vulnerable, then placed her in the bathtub and left her to drown. His motive? To break free from the responsibilities of marriage and fatherhood and pursue a future with his mistress. During the trial, her identity was confirmed. She was the couple's former nanny and a member of Philip's church. Despite overwhelming suspicion, Philip pled not guilty, claiming Anna had either taken her own life or drowned by accident. However, the prosecution presented damning evidence. Anna's longtime family doctor, Dr. Irving Gora, testified that in nearly a decade of treatment, he had never prescribed her lorazepam. She had no history of needing such medication. In contrast, the doctor confirmed that just weeks before Anna's death, Philip had come to him complaining of depression and marital stress. During that appointment, he confessed doubts about whether Anna had ever been the right partner for him. Anna's obstetrician also took the stand, confirming he had not prescribed lorazepam either. Their testimonies reinforced the prosecution's narrative. The sedative found in Anna's system had not come from any licensed professional overseeing her care. Toxicology reports were pivotal. They showed that Anna had lorazepam in her system on the night she died, but also days earlier during her hospitalization for dizziness and confusion. At that time, the levels had been lower. By the time of her autopsy, the dosage in her body had significantly increased. This wasn't an accident. It was a pattern. Perhaps the most chilling revelation came from a forensic analysis of Philip's computer. Investigators uncovered a search made from his user account on October 10th, just 1 week before Anna's death. The query posted on Wiki Answers read, "Is 100 milligrams of lorazepam fatal?" According to prosecutors, the hospital visit on October 14th wasn't just a warning, it was a test run, a rehearsal for what would come next. 3 days later, Anna was dead. They also discovered that on the very morning of October 14th, while Anna lay in the hospital recovering from a drug-induced medical emergency, a user on Philip's computer had searched for escort services in Toronto at exactly 4:48 a.m., just before Anna was discharged. Someone using his account browsed websites for ultimate intimate experiences. Just hours after his wife returned home, that same user was online again, this time researching the sedative lorazepam to understand how Philip may have obtained the drug. Prosecutors brought in his former supervisor from the retirement center where Philip worked. Catherine Fiore testified that as associate head nurse, Philip was in charge of dispensing and disposing of medications for elderly residents. Investigators had uncovered a document on his computer from June 2011 listing residents and their prescriptions, among them lorazepam. But perhaps most damning of all, tech experts revealed that while Philip claimed he had been out jogging the day Anna died, his adult content filter had been disabled. The implication was clear. He had been home the entire time and had lied to police. Testimony from his former mistress further dismantled any remaining illusion of innocence. She told the court that she and Philip had spoken on the phone for 30 minutes the day he claimed to have found his wife unresponsive in the bathtub. Later that same day, after being released from police questioning, Philip went to her home and slept with her. Though she claimed Philip never spoke of violence, her account portrayed a man far removed from the grieving husband he presented in public. Still, she insisted they remained friends. Philip's defense argued that Anna had taken the drug herself, driven by depression after learning of the affair. They claimed there was no proof he administered it, but the circumstantial evidence was overwhelming. In January 2015, after 2 days of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. Philip Grandin was found guilty of voluntary manslaughter. During sentencing, the judge handed down a 15-year prison term, stating that the level of Philip's deception and cruelty defied human decency. Anna's mother and sister gave a statement outside the courthouse, remembering her as a kind, faithful soul and expressing their grief. They thanked those who had supported them, but the sense of closure was short-lived. Philip appealed the ruling, and a higher court overturned his conviction, citing a technical error in how the jury had been instructed. A new trial was ordered, and this time he would face the lesser charge of involuntary manslaughter. He was released on bail once again. During the second trial, which began in early 2019, prosecutors maintained that Philip had drugged Anna to free himself for another life with his mistress and to continue feeding his obsession with explicit material. They argued that even if he didn't intentionally drown her, he had acted with gross negligence by allowing her to bathe while under the influence. The defense repeated its claim that Anna had taken the drug on her own and died in a tragic accident. This time, the jury convicted Philip of involuntary manslaughter. He remained free on bail until sentencing. During the impact statement, Anna's mother described how her world collapsed upon learning of her daughter's drowning. She called the attack not just a crime against her daughter and unborn grandson, but against God. Her father, who had flown in from the Philippines, shared that the trauma had nearly killed him too. On the journey to attend his daughter's funeral, he suffered 2 strokes from the emotional toll. In early 2020, Philip was sentenced once again to 15 years in prison. The judge declared that his actions were premeditated, calculated, and malicious, and that the drug had clearly been used to incapacitate his wife. But unbelievably, Philip appealed a 3rd time. While awaiting yet another trial, he was granted bail once again. His legal team argued that there was no proof he knew Anna had taken the sedative and no way to prove he foresaw her death. They also argued that the sentence was excessive. By this point, Anna's family was losing hope. The man who had promised to love and protect her had instead ended her life, and the justice system seemed unable to hold him accountable. In May 2022, more than a decade after Anna's death, the highest court in Ontario rejected all of Philip's appeals. The judges unanimously agreed that Philip, as a trained nurse, had both the general and specific knowledge of the risks Anna faced after ingesting lorazepam. They concluded he knew the drug's effects, having seen them before, and that his failure to intervene while she bathed was criminally negligent. Philip Grandin was finally ordered to begin serving his full 15-year sentence. After the ruling, Anna's sister, Hannah, spoke to reporters, expressing relief that he was now in custody for a crime he had been convicted of twice. She emphasized that justice for victims of domestic abuse must be real and meaningful, and that while Philip had delayed accountability with appeals and legal games, Anna never got the chance to appeal her fate. She was sentenced to death the night her husband chose betrayal over love. Since that tragic day in October 2011, Anna's family has lived through a nightmare. They left their home in the Philippines hoping for a better future in Canada. But in Philip Grandin, they encountered a man whose public image of virtue masked a darkness few could have imagined. Anna Grandin was gentle, kind, full of faith and light, and her life was stolen by the very person she trusted most. Thank you for tuning in. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.